What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Check out the skyline. We got Philadelphia in the background here along the Schuylkill River Trail, Philadelphia Museum of Art. Yeah, just getting the day started off with an elevated view to look out towards the horizon. You know, what this reminds me of is childhood, and I spent my youth in the summer along the beaches of Longport, New Jersey. And along this beach, I remember staring out at the shoreline, afraid of the unknown, afraid of the ocean. I was afraid of the ocean, I'll tell you. I never went in for a long period of time. I would actually find comfort in the warm sand along the entrance of the beach. You know, digging holes, making sand castles. And there was a point where I first went in the water and I recognized all of these crabs crawling around. I recognized all of these jellyfish, and I remember seeing one of our friends get stung by a jellyfish, and you know, he had this red spot, and I was so afraid to go in. I never went in for a long period of time. But when I found my friends at the beach, they encouraged me to go into the deep end and boogie board, and you know, just have that sort of call to adventure in the ocean. But the ocean in nature is very violent, right? Nature shows no mercy, right? Nature, Mother Nature, she kind of just does her thing, right? You look out into the horizon of an ocean and it seems like an abyss. You know, it reminds me of this feeling when I look out here towards the Schuylkill River and I can see the tree canopy and beyond the horizon as the clouds peer in here. You know, there's something about this elevated view that I find power and inspiration in. And when you look out at an ocean, or if you look out at a view like this, you feel this sense of adventure calling. And when I went out for the first time to surf along this beach here, the undertow was pulling me out, pulling me so far out into the distance that a lifeguard actually had to come and save me. And this scarred me, like one of the first times I went out to try to surf. And so maybe yeah, maybe I just never got into surfing because of this, right? I never overcame that fear when I was very young. And frankly, I never really liked to go in the ocean. Even to this day, if I go into the ocean, I'll just stay at the shallow end, you know, kind of just dip my toes in, because there's so many critters and unknown things inside the ocean, right? The ocean is full of mystery. It's almost like space. You know, it's like this void within our world. And I think that once I overcame the fear a little bit when I was a kid, I remember we would boogie board, and we got this raft, and we would ride the waves when there was a red flag. You know, when the red flag's up, that means the waves are rough. And we would go crashing into the shore, and you know, it was really fun. When you're with a group, when you're with a band of brothers, when you're with a bunch of friends, you know, you kind of overcome the fear together. But when you go out into the unknown alone, yeah, it can be a bit scary. It can be a bit overwhelming. And yeah, there's something about nature and the human being and our connection to it that intrigues me. You know, when I think of nature, I think of its violent nature, you know, or its unwillingness to show mercy, right? When I was sitting upon the beaches in Longport with my grandmother, she would lounge back and she would eat her watermelon and her Italian hoagie, and the seagulls would come swarming in. You know, the seagulls would come and snatch the hoagie straight from her mouth without any remorse, right? The seagulls were hungrier, right? The seagulls wanted that hoagie and they got what they want, right? The seagulls, the animals, nature has no moral compass, has no idea of right or wrong. Most recently, I was walking through Rittenhouse Square Park, and I remember seeing this big bird. I believe it was a hawk, and it swooped down and it killed or ate a baby bird in mid-flight with one bite. And all you saw from the scene were just a few feathers falling to the ground, right? Just up this trail here along the Schuylkill River banks by the boardwalk, you know, there's a bunch of places where you can grab rocks, but I went over the fence and I was exploring along the edges, and I was trying to be dangerous and try to be sort of just adventurous and curious, and I saw a bunch of rocks underneath the underneath the boardwalk, and I went to grab a rock because I like to throw the rocks into the river. I think it's kind of cool to see the way it ripples and just to see how far I can throw a rock. And I didn't realize, but there were these weeds growing in between the rocks, you know, kind of like these. However, the weeds that were growing in between the rocks were apparently some plant called stinging nettle. You know, thank God for ChatGPT, you can take a photo of the plants and then learn what they are. You know, I came home and I had these rashes down my wrists, and the next couple of days I was fighting against nature. I had to put on some like cortisone cream and all these kind of things so that I could overcome this rash. You know, it's kind of funny. It's like nature is just violent. It's like maybe we shouldn't fight against it. You know, or just be aware of it. You know, it's like you have to overcome this like mind over, you know, matter situation, right? You have to have a strong mind and a strong body to overcome that urge to itch the rash. And yeah, that was one of the first times I received a rash from nature. You know, even when I was a little boy, I never had a rash from nature. You know, I never had poison ivy, but just a few weeks ago, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I was pruning some trees. You know, these suckers grow from these trees and they suck all of the energy out of this source of life. And I wanted to clean this tree because it was really beautiful. And when I was cleaning the tree, I came home the next day, poison ivy down my wrist. And it's pretty much, you can kind of see it there, but it went away. For the most part, no longer itching. You know, I was applying that cream for like 2 weeks. You know, poison ivy takes a lot longer, and you know, you have to train your body to resist the temptation to itch and scratch. And you know, there's something about nature and its violence, you know, where the animals, the insects, you know, these things are, and the plants, you know, these things are violent. These things are sort of out of our control, and maybe man, in our attempt to control it, yeah, maybe this is where we will find some problems along the way, right? Where we can get rashes, we can get bit, you know, we can contract malaria. You know, a lion will eat you. But I guess similarly to the way in which the goats are killed by eagles, where they kind of just swoop down and push them off the side of a cliff, kind of like me just standing here, right, like along the cliff. You know, like an eagle could swoop down right now and just push me or bite my neck or something, or like, you know, my back, and I would fall down. And you know, maybe I'd probably still be alive if I fell down this cliff. You know, I'd probably just bounce and bounce and bounce and break a bone, but I'd still be there and alive, and the eagle would come down and feast on me, and then I would decompose, and probably the worms would eat me. And maybe that's just the cycle of life, right? And as much as human beings are the apex predator, where we have guns, we have medicine, we have nuclear bombs, and you know, we could blow this whole place up if we wanted to, right? I think maybe Mother Nature is really powerful, but maybe we shouldn't worship Mother Nature. You know, maybe we should just leave her alone.